Hey, hey, what is up? So, give me 1 second. Let me get all situated here. Situated. I'm doing this live. And I'm gonna share this brief exchange a couple times throughout this live, just so you know why I'm doing it. But um, I asked someone the other day. I said, "Have you made $1 million yet?" And they were like, "No." And I was like, "Well, you haven't made $1 million yet?" And they were like, "No." And I'm like, "How are you perceiving that question?" And they were like, "Well, I haven't generated $1 million in a year." And I said, "Well, who told you I was asking about a year? Have you made $1 million?" And he started to think, and so I said, "Go back to the first job you ever had. Think back to the first job you ever had, and I want you to think, and you don't have to get too specific, but think about all of the 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 income that you've made every year since the first day you ever started working, and I want you to start adding all that stuff up." And when he went through that brief, I was a high level exercise, he realized, he was like, "Yeah, I think I'm actually at 1.5 or 1.6 or something like that," he said. And so the reality was that he already made $1 million. Many of us have already generated $1 million. Um, the key is in what frame of time we have a desire to generate that level of income. So I want to talk about that today. I'm going to go through a brief exercise, and I also want to touch on why your perspective on this is so important in becoming an entrepreneur and making certain decisions, because there are two individuals that can have the same idea but can have massively different results in their either business or their career, just solely based off of their perspective on certain things. One person's vantage point may look at something one way and another may look at it a different way, but it matters based off of what resources you tend to curate in order to achieve those objectives. All right. So the title of this live was you've already made $1 million. You just probably didn't make it as fast as you wanted to. So your perspective matters. So I want to show you this very simple spreadsheet that I created. And I'm just gonna go through a simple calculation with you here. All right. Let me make this about 190. Okay, there we go. So I don't know how old you are. I don't know how I don't know your age. Let me move myself over here. I don't know your age. I don't know how many years you've worked. I don't know any of that. Um, I'm just making up numbers here, okay? So don't look at this and say, "Oh, well, who was making $60,000 in their first job, and who was." I'm just coming up with numbers here, all right? Um, and I know I have some. Dave, what's going on, man? I know I have some individuals who are very technical. They're like, "Oh well, are your salary is your salary adjusted for inflation and for the?" Leave me alone. I'm just throwing numbers out here, okay? So let's say years ago you had a job, and your first salary was, let's say, $35,000, right? You were at that job for, let's say, approximately 4 years. Okay. So off rip, right? You were at that job for 4 years, you were making 35, and I'm not talking about taxes and all that either. That's a totally different conversation. You're at 140, right? At year four, you said, "Hey, I wanna get a promotion." You got another job, and your next job was at 50, right? And you were there for, let's say, 6 years. And your next job, you got another promotion. You jumped up to 75, and that job you were there for about, let's say, 5 years. Now, most recently, let's say you got a new job and you were at 90,000 and you've been there for about 4 years. Okay. And again, I'm just going through a simple exercise here. First job, 35, 50, 75, 90. 4 years, 6 years, 5 years, 4 years. The first job totaled you 140. The second job totaled you 300. The third job totaled you 375. And the last job totaled you 360. Over 19 years, you've been able to amass, or you generated $1.175 million. Okay. Now, yes, depending on what type of lifestyle you want to live, this may not be desirable. Our society programmed us to look at things from a month to month, year to year standpoint, which is why we tend to gauge bills, and we tend to gauge objections, and we tend to gauge priorities based off of very short time frames. But when you zoom out a little bit, you'll start to see very different, I don't want to say problems, but you're going to start to see things slightly differently. If you were to be asked, have you ever made $1 million? The answer should be yes. In this case, this person, let's say this person is Sally. Sally, have you ever made $1 million? If Sally's down here in the weeds, and she's asked that question, she's gonna say no. I've never made $1 million. But if you bring Sally out from a macro high level, and Sally sees these numbers in this way, Sally's gonna say, yes, I have made $1 million, because she has. The challenge though is it took her 19 years to make it. So the problem or the objective here is it's not a matter of whether or not you can make $1 million. It's a matter of the speed to get, because Sally, I pray Sally sees another 19 years, another 20 years, right? If Sally lives another 20 years, and let's say Sally's income never increases, okay? Let's say her income never increases, and she lives another 20 years. She works another 20 years. This would be 24. Sally's would be able to say that she amassed $3 million over her working lifetime. So she could make the money, but it's about speed, right? So if I'm speaking to my professionals here who have jobs, I think a lot of us are going to want to say, oh well, we need to just increase our salary. Like that's what needs to solve the problem. We need to increase our salary. But the challenge is, in our society, there's going to be a marketplace for certain things, one of them being your skills. And there will eventually be a glass ceiling that you're going to hit based off of what it is you do. So salary cannot always be the point that you try to determine whether or not you are able to amass a certain amount of income within a period of time. Again, it's not a matter of whether or not you can do it. It's a matter of you compressing time, right? It's a matter of you compressing time. So I want to speak to my entrepreneurs for a second. So my entrepreneurs, my business owners, my consultants, my coaches, my creatives, all of you, if you were to look at your income over a period of time, I'm very sure you're going to say, man, you know what? Damn, well, yeah, over the past 10 years, I did make over $1 million. Now, if you want to make $1 million faster, there are certain things that you must do in order to, again, compress time. Speed is the challenge that you have to overcome here. Not ability, not skills and all that. It is speed, right? So I want to speak through a couple things. And again, I primarily want to speak to my entrepreneurs because and my employed entrepreneurs as well. The reason why is because when you own a business, or when you're in sales, and when certain things are performance based, you have control over what that speed is. You're not, if you're in the passenger seat, you can't tell the Uber driver or you can't tell the driver to speed up. You know, very similarly to if you just have a salary, you can't just say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not okay with how fast I'm generating. I'm not okay with my pursuit to get to 1 million within a year. At this rate, it'll take me, 10 years or 15 years, 10 years to amass $1 million. I'm not okay with that. So pay me faster or pay me more." That doesn't fly with salaries, So my employed entrepreneurs, there are certain things that you need to do that you can do to compress time. One of those things, and I'm just gonna speak through this, right? I'm not gonna dive too deep into this on this live, but if you do want to chat with me, let me know. And by the way, good morning, everybody. I'm seeing the comments coming in. Good morning, good morning. Sorry, I'm not responding. I'm just kind of writing here. One of the first things that you need to do, or that you can do to compress time, is to understand that there's something known as a cost to acquire. There's a cost to acquire, and you are able to pay more. Okay, you're able to pay more. So right now, there are entrepreneurs out there who say, "Hey, every day that I wake up, I'm gonna go out and I'm going to find clients." Right? So now, hear me out here, and I spoke about this on live a couple days ago, right? Every one of us, we have a rate. We have a rate that our time is worth every single hour, even while we're sleeping. Okay, we all have our rates. Okay, so you may calculate your rate to be $20 an hour, $15 an hour, even while you're sleeping, $10 an hour, even while you're sleeping, okay? Now, the challenge here is most people, like even for you all looking at me on live here, many of you may be using social media to acquire your clients and customers and prospects and leads. You spend 8 hours just engaging here, making a post there, making a graphic there, doing this here, doing this there. Let's say your rate is $20 an hour and you spent 8 hours, not 8 hours straight, just 8 hours jumping in and jumping out, jumping in and jumping out. 8 hours jumping in and jumping out. That's your rate. That would have cost you $160 that day to be in pursuit of a client. Now, does that mean you acquired anybody? No. You just spent that to be in pursuit of a client. Now, let's say, now mind you, this is you taking you're creating content, you're putting it out there, and you're crossing your fingers and hoping that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X now, LinkedIn, that's going to show your content to as many people as possible. And then those individuals are going to have a high propensity to buy from you. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, my business is growing and I made money. But the reality is, if you calculate it based off of your rate per hour, you may be in the red. Okay. So one of the first things that you can do to be able to accelerate your ability to generate more income is to advertise. Understand that there is a cost. There is a cost to acquire customers, and you have full control over your ability to get more, as long as you understand and you're willing to pay that cost. And you can incorporate that cost into your desired income, and you adjust your prices accordingly. So I just got an email from a buddy of mine. We're gonna be working on a venture together. Shot him and his business partner an email saying, "Hey, right now let's just throw out an arbitrary percentage of 18% to be able to account for my allocation of the revenue and or net revenue, gross revenue, And then we'll work things out over time. So he responded with, hey, we were thinking closer to 15%. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever, 15%. Let's just increase our prices by 3%. I'm good. Let's go. Now, think about that response there, right? Like, I understand that my role and the cost for my percentage, my distribution for that work is going to be 15 to 18%. But it doesn't matter because they still have control over what they are charging clients. So to accelerate their ability to increase their revenue within a short period of time, they're able to compensate for that on any end of that formula. Okay, are you guys following me here? Because I feel like it takes a certain level of experience to understand these concepts, but sometimes I think there's certain things that's kind of hard to grasp. If you're understanding this, say something in the comments. Just say, hey, I get it, because the reason why this is so important is because I see so many entrepreneurs, they're not willing to adjust any element of the formula. So they choose to just continue doing status quo. They won't adjust their prices, and they also won't pay to acquire more customers faster. Okay? Advertising enables you to accelerate how it changes the problem. I've run campaigns for business owners who we started out and it was like, hey, man, Mike, I need more customers. And I'm like, all right, well, fine. Once we start this campaign, the challenge is going to be very different. I'm going to challenge you to assess whether or not you have the capacity to maintain the quality of work you're doing. They're like, man, no, look, just don't worry about that. Let's just kick off the campaign. So, all right, cool. Kicked off the campaign, and what started to happen was we were getting more leads than they could handle. People were not getting calls back. They weren't getting invoices. They weren't getting their project scoped. Like, it was the problem changed. It wasn't a matter of getting enough opportunities fast enough. It was about maintaining the opportunities. So when you change the problem, it gives you control to be able to adjust how fast you make income. Okay. So let me not harp on that too much. First thing that you could do to speed up how fast you can generate revenue is to understand that there's a cost to acquire and be willing to pay it. Because again, you want to know what this is synonymous to? This is synonymous to depending on where you live, right? Let's say you live in Orlando. I live smack dab in the middle of Orlando. And I need to get to Kissimmee, right? One way I can get to Kissimmee is by walking. Okay? I can walk. Okay? So that's the first way I can get to Kissimmee. I can walk. So it will take me the entire day to get to Kissimmee. Okay? Now, the second way I can get there is by a bike. I can hop on a bike and I can ride. So it may take me half the day to get to Kissimmee. The third way would be for me to pay to get on a bus. It'll take me 3 hours to get to Kissimmee. The last way is to put gas in my car, and I'll be in Kissimmee within less than an hour, right? So understanding, because all of you who own cars, you have no problem putting gas in your car, right? The reason you put gas in your car is because it is an accelerant. It gets you to point B faster. So again, this entire live is all about the fact that many of you have already you've already made $1 million. If I were to ask most of you, hey, have you ever made $1 million? Your natural response may be no, because in your mind, you're thinking making $1 million within 1 year. But the reality is it's not a matter of 1 year. It's a matter of a period of time that you've been able to generate income. And if you've made $1 million over, let's say 15 years, 10 years, whatever, if you made it over that time, if that's not desirable, don't try to solve one problem that has caps to it. Try to accelerate your ability to increase so that you could generate revenue faster. All right. So one way, advertise, understanding that there's a cost to acquire. Second way is to do something known as delegating. All right. So I don't want to sound cliche here. But I've had a lot of people hit me up just because, I mean, I'm in tech and sales and marketing, right? So I'm in tech sales and marketing. So a lot of people hit me up like, Mike, man, I want to do something. I want to get some software to automate all this stuff. I want to automate this, automate. And I hear the word automate all over the place, right? And I'm like, well, okay, let me ask you a couple questions before you want to design some software and create some technology to do this. Um, are you currently doing this all day, every day? And it's like, yes, I'm doing it. And I'm like, all right, cool. Have you tested whether or not you're doing the right thing? Have you tested whether or not you're doing the right thing as over and over again? Yes, I've tested it. I've tested it. Okay, cool. What you're doing right now, the reason you want to automate it is because you have something of greater value to do than what you're doing over and over again, right? Is that correct? Yes. Then the first step before you use technology is, since the value of that work is less than what you could be doing, there is an opportunity cost to doing this work, correct? The next step before you try to design some software is to get someone else to do this work over and over again, and to have them do it right over and over again. Then get a second person to do that work over and over again, and test whether or not they're doing the right things over and over again. And once you realize that there is a formula here, you are doing the right things the right way to get the right results. At that point, you can validate whether or not you can create technology, or whether or not you should invest in technology to do so. There are plenty of people who do the wrong thing the right way, and there are plenty of people that do the wrong thing the right way. Once you realize you've done the right thing the right way, that's when you can start to invest in tools to genuinely automate. So I bring this up because there are plenty of entrepreneurs. I fell into this as well, who we do something well, and we do it, and in our minds we think, well, man, you know what? Who else can do it as good as we can? And we decide to defer delegation. We decide to defer delegation. But what deferring delegation does, it decelerates your ability to increase your income. So let's say you're a freelancer, right? If you're a freelancer, if you make websites, or you do digital marketing, if you do business coaching, consulting, if you do that stuff, $150,000 a year is, I would say, extremely like, if you're not generating 140, 150, you're most likely doing something wrong. Like, you're doing something very wrong, because it is very easy to make $150,000 a year coaching and consulting. It is very easy. No, that is not debatable. If anybody hops on here saying, "Oh no, making 150 is hard," you have a flaw. You have a flawed mindset around even helping others achieve their objectives. The world is big out here. The world is big out here. There are billions of people that you have direct access to. Years ago, you had to call people. You had to call people on the phone. There wasn't even something known as caller ID. You had to go knock on people's doors. You had to send letters. And even back then, people were making millions of dollars. So think about, now you have direct access to millions of people. If you're not generating 150, that means there's something, either your perspective on generating income is not where it should be, or the vantage point that you're looking at from what you want to grow to is just kind of off. Again, doing it all by yourself, very attainable, okay? Very attainable. But if you're capped at 150 because again, you only have a certain number of amount of time in a day, and your market you have that glass ceiling within your market, until you delegate, you're not able to accelerate. So First thing that you can do to accelerate is to advertise and to understand that there's a cost to acquire. Second thing that you can do to accelerate is to delegate. So accelerate is to delegate. That enables you to offload offload tasks and activities that you are able to focus your energy on the higher end or higher value um, offerings. That enables you to accelerate. It compresses time. Okay. The last thing that I want to speak to, and again, I want to speak to my coaches, consultants, creatives, entrepreneurs. The last thing that you could do is to adjust your offerings. Adjust your offerings. Um, if you listen to a lot of these coaches out here, you're gonna see a lot of them talk about high ticket this, high ticket that, high ticket this. Oh, you're a coach, you need to charge $15,000 for coaching. Oh, you're a coach, you're a consultant, you need to charge $50,000. And you're gonna see a lot of coaches tell you that on social media. And not to say that it's always a bad thing, but you need to choose what offering is aligned with you and your desires and your lifestyle and your pursuit to accelerate. You need to choose there. You can make $1 million a couple different, well, not many different ways. There's a million ways to make $1 million. Let me get back to my spreadsheet here and let me uh there's a million ways to make $1 million. One way is to sell a $10 item 10,000 times, 100,000 times, right? A $10 item 100,000 times. Another way is to sell a $100 item 10,000 times. Another way is to sell a $1,000 item 1,000 times, right? Another way is to sell a $10,000 item 100 times, right? Like I can keep going, right? And I can adjust those numbers in any abstract or arbitrary way that I want. The reality, though, is what you offer and what your marketplace desires. Once you find a nice ground to land on, it will enable you to know whether or not you can accelerate in that area faster. So let me give you an example because I know I can kind of get off here. Let's say you offer consulting, right? And it is a $50,000 offering. So in order to get someone in your marketplace to buy a $50,000 offering, you have to have high value deliverables. With that high value deliverables, it takes you far longer. So I'm just going to throw out some numbers here, right? Let's just say it takes you 6 months to fulfill your $50,000 offering. It takes you 6 months to fulfill the $50,000 offering. You can only do 2 of these at a time because of your own bandwidth. So, 50,000, you can only do 2 at a time. So, if it takes you half a year, the maximum you can make that year is 200,000. Okay? The maximum you can make that year is 200,000. So now that is you saying, "Oh, ultra high ticket, ultra high ticket. I want to make a bunch of money." But at the same time, you're not compressing or accelerating your ability to generate more. What you are doing is you may be at that point creating a glass ceiling that's going to make it more difficult for you to break. Now, let's say you want to delegate at that point. If you want to find somebody just as highly specialized as you to be able to deliver on a $50,000 project, you now have to pay them a lot more money. Because why? They're highly specialized, right? So now out of a $50,000 offering, you got to pay a highly specialized person probably 50,000 to be able to fulfill a 50. So again, and then how many of them are out there? Are you going to you're not going to find someone, an offshore resource, someone from the Philippines to fulfill a $50,000 highly specialized deliverable for a client who may be investing, $9,000 a month for 6 months, right? Like that's not how that's going to work. So again, ultra high ticket doesn't always lead to acceleration, sales acceleration. Now, let's say you're at $1,000 offering, right? Doesn't require a ton of specialty. It does, however, require a somewhat of a system. It requires some processes in place, some standard operating elements, SOPs. It does require some delivery mechanisms in place for them to be able to access and to acquire that $1,000 offering. And let's just say you lean into the fact that you don't have to be too involved in that $1,000 offering, right? Now, how many of those can you fulfill within 6 months? You can fulfill as many as you need. Why? Because it doesn't require your time and it doesn't require a specialist, right? If you understand that there is a cost to acquire, can you advertise to accelerate how many people consume that $1,000 offering? Yes. Is there a marketplace for? Is there a greater marketplace for people consuming $1,000 offering than a $50,000 offering? Yes, right. Like these are things that once you grasp, you'll realize that you can make certain adjustments in your business right now to be able to accelerate your ability and compress time, so that you can say, yeah, you know what? I've generated $1 million, and I've been able to compress my time to do that to 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, right? That time is what you should lean on, not just your annual income. Okay, that's the point of this video. So, because you leaned in on a lower ticket offering, $1,000 versus the mega ticket offering, the 50,000. You were able to ensure that you didn't fall into the trap of multiple glass ceilings that were more difficult to break than the understanding that there's a cost to acquire and all you got to do is spend it. There are still a ton of people now they have the ability, they have the capacity, but they're not leaning in on the three elements that can enable you to accelerate your sales, which is your ability to advertise and to lean in on paying that cost to acquire or investing in that cost to acquire. Second is to delegate so that you can accelerate. And the third is to just adjust your offerings. There are offerings that are lower and there are offerings that are more. I mean, think about this. Some of the moguls that you may admire, let's say in the music industry, right? Let's say in the music industry, there were people who were making a ton of money by selling $15, $10 CDs. $15, $10 CDs. Now, mind you, again, I understand that there's other elements to it, right? Like, oh, well, yes, you know, these artists were getting paid pennies per CD, but at the same time, those CDs were their low ticket entry point to validate whether or not people would show up to their concerts. So I mean, there's an element to this that plays into everything that all of us do. Many of you do not want to offer that $5 ebook or that $10 ebook, not knowing that the $5, $10 ebook is what can provide you with the authority to land a $10,000 speaking engagement. This Science by Mike the Scientist. I mean, there's a science to it. There's a science to it, but there's also an art to this. There's an art to this. I speak on the acronym, my acronym for art, the art of selling, the art of social selling. The A stands for attention. The A stands for attention. So if you can get very good at getting people's attention, you have mastered the first step to being able to sell. Getting people's attention is key. If once you get people's attention, the second thing that you must do or get very proficient at is becoming highly relevant to what matters to them, right? So if I run into a Starbucks and I scream, I'm going to get everyone's attention. If I scream something stupid, that's not going to be relevant at all to anybody in the Starbucks. So I'm not going to be able to get to the last step. I'm not going to be able to get to the T. I'll get to that in a moment. But if let's say I sell doggy t-shirts, right? I sell doggy t-shirts. If I run into a daycare and I say, "Hey everybody, I sell doggy t-shirts," people will look at me and be like, "Why the hell are you telling me that. But let's say I run into a PetSmart and I'm like, I sell doggy t-shirts. Am I highly relevant? Yes. Did I get their attention? Yes. Did I fulfill the last step in this process of art, which is trust? Maybe not, right? So that's why, yes, there's an art to this, but there's also a science, because when you mix the two, I think it's easier and more straightforward for you to be able to acquire the attention, become relevant, and to acquire that trust element. Once you get the attention, relevance, and trust, you have most of what's in that formula to be able to get people to buy from you. So again, this entire live, all of this is all about accelerating your ability to get to a million. I I got on live here because I asked someone a little while ago. I said, "Hey, have you made $1 million yet?" And their natural response was no. And the reason their natural response was no was because societally, and I'm just recapping here. I'm just recapping for anybody who's just tuning in. Societally, we tend to look at things from the cadence that society gives us. Our cadence is annual. Our cadence is monthly. Our cadence is weekly, bi-weekly. I mean, even think about this, right? Like if you have a job, the cadence for you receiving paychecks right now is typically 2 weeks, right? It's typically 2 weeks. Some companies, like I remember I used to work at a defense contractor, and I used to get paid every week. And there are some companies, depending on where you work, they'll pay you monthly, right? But that cadence, and many of you may not know this, that cadence of you receiving a paycheck every other week, that came from the post office. It was too expensive to send checks every other day. So they said, hey, let's only send checks every other week so that we can minimize our shipping costs. So, but even think about this, right? The majority of people now, they're still thinking it's okay to be paid every other week because that's the cadence that society programmed us to. It's very similar to daylight savings, right? The majority of people don't know where daylight savings comes from. Daylight savings comes from the agricultural era, where we needed to optimize the amount of time that we were out working in fields, or we needed to optimize the amount of time that we were able to work out in fields. So we created these daylight savings zones to be able to increase our ability to leverage the sun's projection on the land we were tilling. Now, does that apply today? No. But do we still adopt daylight savings? Yes. Right. So again, there are certain things that once you understand it, you'll be able to kind of know that it's moot points. But paychecks, you get paid every 2 weeks because of a problem they used to have. Now companies, they say, hey, you know what? Our society is programmed to that cadence. So let's not bother that, because if we can hold our money for an extra 2 weeks without them having a problem with it, not only am I okay with that, because we can leverage that money within a period of time to be able to do our own acceleration, but if it ain't broke on our end, do not try to fix it. So, but in business, you have the ability to make changes. You can pay. I got into it a little while ago. I forgot what her name was. This is when I was just straight freestyling, freelancing. But she was like, "Oh yeah, she said some joke about, at least I can get paid every Friday," and her jab was, well, at least I have job security and I get paid every other Friday. And I was like, you only get paid on Fridays? And so, I mean, she blocked me because, whatever. But the reality here is if you want to accelerate how much you can generate, you need to there's more to unlearn than to learn. There's more you must unlearn than to learn. So I think many of us, like, we think, oh my gosh, I have to learn so much. No, we need to unlearn more than learn. So again, if you want this spreadsheet, let me know. This is not a complicated spreadsheet. This is not a complicated spreadsheet. This is a very simple spreadsheet, a very simple exercise for you to use just to know what your cumulative income, lifetime income has been to date. If you look at your cumulative lifetime income and you say, damn, I've already made $3 million since I started working. Dang, I already made $2 million since I started working. Dang, I already made $1.4 million since I started working. And if you take that number, another thing that this does, it's a weird, when you take that number and you say, man, like, I made $1.5 million since I started working. And then you start to direct your attention over to your bank account, and you direct your attention over to how much you've paid for taxes. Then you direct your attention over to the things that you've purchased over the years that ain't worth anything now. Like, your mindset is going to start to change. How you look at this cadence of life is going to start to change. Like, two people can have the same solution to a problem, but they can have massively different results based off of their vantage point. So all of this is a sales acceleration discussion. Most of you, again, have already made $1 million. It's just a matter of the fact that you may have wanted to make it faster. You may have wanted to make it faster. Anytime someone asks you certain questions, there should be an element of it. There should be an element of the question that you have an understanding of, so that you can know whether or not you're answering the right question in the right way, because it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. I think this is why if you're a consultant, this is why consultants get paid so much money. Consultants get paid a lot of money because, for one, their experiential knowledge and response to certain things is it's valuable, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, and managers who are stuck in their ways. They're stuck in a framework that they've adopted, and they haven't had anyone to come in and validate a change. There are some companies, they pay consultants because they themselves are not able to make certain claims. I've been a part of this. Years ago, I was hired as a consultant for a company, as a fractional marketing professional, primarily because just the way how they operated, the way how their leadership team operated, they couldn't say, hey, we need to up our advertising budget by $2,000 a month. They couldn't say that, because their team would look at that as their opinion. They needed to have a consultant come in and say, you need to up your advertising by $2,000. Why? Because, again, it's a different vantage point. So if you're a consultant, your ability to help people understand those vantage points is key. I ask entrepreneurs and business owners, I would say I ask very simple questions. I don't feel like I ask hard questions. I ask very simple questions. And it's funny, because I noticed that certain questions that I ask, it doesn't always just lead to answers. It leads to a journey to them having the self-realization of things that they should already be doing, or things that they must consider, or things that they must put into their practice, their daily practice. So consulting is one of those things that, like, if you haven't considered becoming a consultant, um, I don't want to say it's difficult, but it is one of those things where um, you can help people have these self realizations, and then that's one of the reasons why I love consulting. So if this was valuable to you, if this was valuable to you, any nugget from here was valuable to you, drop me a comment, reshare the video. Um, I'll probably chop this up and throw this on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube and some of my other platforms. I definitely want to grow my following on there. Again, if you find this valuable, um, if you have any questions, hit me up too. What questions do you guys have about this? Are you going to leave this up? Are you going to leave this up to watch later? Yeah, I'll leave this up. I'll leave this up. Oh, actually, what I'll do? What I'll do. So here's one thing I want to tell you guys too. This is a tip, okay? This is a tip because this is a 45-minute live. I know for an absolute fact the majority of you are not sitting down watching a 45-minute video. And this is also for all of you who are watching YouTube videos and Vimeo videos. Inside of let me just show you. Hold on, I don't know if you guys were aware of this. Let me mute this real quick. Let me share my screen. So when you come onto YouTube and when you're on Facebook, when you click into these videos, right? The first thing that I normally encourage everyone to do is to look at how long the video is, right? You should when you click on a video, you should know, okay, this is a 45-minute video, this is a 30-minute video. But depending on how much time you actually have, you can come in and adjust the play speed. So you can make this video go way faster than it would if you just played it at its regular speed. I do not have the time to sit down and watch half of these podcast videos and half of these videos at regular speed. I do not watch it at regular speed. Most of these videos, I'm watching it at 1.5 or even 1.75. Yes, it comes at me faster, but I am able to consume more of it versus the alternative, which is you start a video and then you click out of the video before you even get into the video. All right. So I say this because, again, this live that I just had, 47 minutes. I'm at 47 minutes right now. I know for an absolute fact none of y'all are gonna sit through this 47 minutes straight. So I'm gonna upload this on YouTube, and you can do this on Facebook as well. On Facebook, you can also hop into a video. Let me see if I could jump into a video here to kind of show you. Hold on, give me 1 second. So this is a video that I did a couple days ago, right? When you hop into the video, you roll over this little settings button. Ooh, maybe it doesn't have it on Facebook. I thought this was on Facebook. Oh, because it's a live. I think it's because it's a live. Nope. Maybe it's not. Maybe. All right. All right. I learned something. Yeah, you're not able to adjust the speed on Facebook no more. I could have sworn we were able to adjust the speed before, but I may be wrong. All right, hey, you can't do it on Facebook. So I'm going to upload this on YouTube. Um, I'm gonna upload this on YouTube and drop the link back on my feed so you can watch it at a faster speed. All right. So if you have any questions, please hit me up. I see very valuable content. Awesome. Thank you, Holly. Teresa, I'm unlearning something. Awesome. Awesome. Cheryl, thank you for tagging your sister. Um, Let me see if I have any comments that I missed. Uh, Landa, I'd like a copy. All right, I'll send that over to you. I'll send you a link. Cool. All right, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking me out again. If any of this is valuable, please comment. That helps. That helps with when you comment and when you like and when you love. This is what it does for you, and this is what it does for me. All right. And when you reshare, this is what it does for you, and this is what it does for me. Okay. If you find this interesting, if you are into professional and entrepreneurial development, you should be following more people who are sharing dope stuff. Okay. When you like and love things that align with your ability to professionally and entrepreneurially develop, it puts more of that type of content inside of your feed. Okay. So that's how it helps you. You get more exposure to things that you engage with. So, yes, people are going to engage with funny stuff, but if you engage with stuff that's around development, it helps you as well. The way that it helps me is I am able to have my content shared to help even more individuals, right? So it helps all of us to be able to engage, like, love, reshare, all right? So, and this applies to Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Make sure you're following the right people, you're following the right stuff, engage with things that are valuable so that you can help them and it can help you. All right. All right, you guys. Hit me up if you have any questions. Peace.